it was pretty special because we really got to develop that look. We tried a few things and it evolved, and to a point, I think I met Daniel for the first time with that makeup on, and he took a step back from me, so that was already a good sign.
Right. Rami Malek is an American actor who has bedazzled audiences with his stirring, intelligent, and transformative performances, most notably as computer hacker in US TV series Mr. Robot, and with his portrayal of the late Queen lead singer Freddie Mercury in Bohemian Rhapsody. This last role earned Rami multiple accolades, not least the Academy Award for Best Actor. Next year, after 2 postponements, the world will see him take on Daniel Craig in Craig's final outing as James Bond 007, playing supervillain Safin in No Time to Die. The world awaits still with bated breath. Welcome to GQ Heroes, Rami Malek.
Nice to see you, and thank you for having me, Jonathan. It's a real pleasure to be with you guys.
Straight off, I guess, when you heard about the second postponement for Bond 25, how did you take that crushing news?
Well, I've had the first postponement happen quite some time ago, so it's something that I think we've gotten used to. I appreciate how patient we've become with all of this, and it's a very difficult and nuanced situation to navigate. So I just appreciate how we're putting collective health and safety over profit or lack of profit.
Yeah, absolutely. Up until you landed the role of Safin, Bond's next supervillain, what was your relationship, I guess, with the James Bond oeuvre in terms of being a fan of the films growing up, reading the books maybe?
Yeah, I love the books. Fleming is masterful in my opinion. And I very much enjoyed the films, watching them with my father. It was a time that I look back on with just great appreciation to learn about cinema and to just enjoy this franchise that has become so indelible for all of us all over the world. I mean, I remember looking at those Ken Adams sets from GoldenEye and Dr. No and Moonraker, and just as a kid being filled with such wonderment. They're just astonishing pieces of work even now when you look back at them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, talking about the books, I guess, I'm a fan of those. Fleming described Bond famously as a blunt instrument. The character is alcoholic, he's misogynistic, he's on the whole entirely emotionally unavailable, certainly in the books. He's violent, he's a killer, and yet he's achieved icon status. What is this? What kind of a role model, I guess, is this for the modern man today?
I think that's an excellent question, a very worthy question. I think it's important that we raise these questions with all characters that have achieved icon status, as you say. It's really important that we hold these heroes, per se, to a certain amount of accountability. And when we talk about Ian Fleming, he wrote this character, I think, in the 1950s. So it's an evolution of what James Bond has become, and I think the creatives behind these films, great producers like Barbara and Michael, have really considered that. And particularly in this latest installment, I think you will see more of an evolved James Bond. And Daniel's brought extraordinary sensitivity, I think, to that character, and it really manifests itself in this latest installment. But it's an excellent question. I think something we should all be concerned with, especially when we're holding people up to standards. And I think when we're asking questions about accountability in reference to James Bond, it'd be nice to hold ourselves up to that same accountability. And I see that happening more and more, but I think the world could use a little bit more of that these days. On the other hand, if anyone is trying to emulate James Bond, I think I'm concerned about them. I think their life has a shelf life of maybe 24 to 72 hours.
I would agree, yeah. Thankfully, I've never tried that, although there might be still time. You never know. There's that. There is
You
that.
look like you could pull it off. You're smart, sophisticated.
I'll take that.
I hope not a misogynist.
It's that interesting, conversation to have between cinematic fantasy and how much relevance there needs to be had with those. It's a fictional character after all. Should we just sit in our theatre seat and just get lost in the fantasy of it all, or should there be, should Bond reference what's going on in the modern world, I guess? Is it really Bond's place to do that?
Another excellent question. I think there is a part of it, a reason we go to the movies is for that escapism. And, there are a lot of other characteristics about Bond that I think we can really appreciate as, again, heroic. So when we identify those flaws, that may be something that allows us to balance a character that we hold in high regard and at the same time can question. For those of us who just want to escape and have a fantasy, they can dial right into Ian Fleming's version of Bond, and perhaps they don't need him to be so evolved. And for others, if they want a Bond that is more representative of the world we live in, then perhaps there's a way for that to be balanced. And who knows what we'll see after Daniel leaves this one behind. It usually takes a few years to develop the next version, and I think there'll be a lot of thought and consideration being put into that, and how he does represent the century that we're in right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a treat to talk to you, not just because of your performances gone by, but this impending performance. You also, I guess, really got to see Daniel and also the larger team at work, on creating this new incarnation of Bond. What was it like for you, I guess, as a close observer, seeing that unfold in front of you on set?
It's extraordinary. The thing I was immediately hit with is how much Daniel just embodies this character. You can see that he's lived with it for so long, and when he steps out in front of you for the first time, at least myself, you recognize that there is a definite agent working for the Secret Service that can probably destroy you in a few seconds if he wants. He's everything you want him to be as an actor and as that character, and it was pretty extraordinary just having such a personal experience with him as well.
Yeah.
But in terms of a secret agent, there's not much more you could ask for.
Absolutely, yeah. You mentioned again, we all know it is Daniel's last roll of the dice as Bond. Sadly, I think he's been so incredible in that role. What did that, because it was his final stint, did that add extra pressure or extra precision, I guess, to how things were done on set and to do with the film? Did it give that extra edge, I guess?
It's hard for me to judge because I haven't been there for the previous iterations of that. But from what I saw, he is a man in extreme control of what he's doing. and how to handle the crew. He's one of those guys that you look at from an actor's perspective, and you hope they're going to be the leader that you want them to be. And he just expects the most out of everyone, and you can expect the absolute top out of what he's delivering as a leader, as a performer. And that's the tone that is set on a James Bond set from the creative team, Barbara, Michael, Cary Fukunaga. There is just a sense that you have to live up to a certain level of expectation, and that is the absolute best. And that is the perfect way to describe Daniel.
Yeah. I mean, talking about the absolute best, Javier Bardem as Silva, Christopher Waltz as Blofeld, big, bombastic, savage, precision villains, played by industry heavyweights, by colleagues and peers of yours, which, I'm sure there's a huge amount of respect there. Was there any, you yourself, of course, are highly accomplished, but was there any sense of, I guess, intimidation about the kind of cultural significance of taking on a Bond supervillain, and also the last one for Daniel to face?
Yes, of course. Well, first off, I do have the utmost respect for those two actors. I'm consistently astonished by every performance that they deliver. And I thought they've been exceptional in these films. One thing I learned on Bohemian Rhapsody is if you let that type of intimidation take over, it just robs you, one, of your ability to have a certain amount of confidence to deliver what you're capable of, or you're hopeful that you're capable of. So if I learned one thing from that film, was that I need to try to not be so concerned about filling shoes and just go in there and deliver. I know that I had to bring my A game with an actor like Daniel, who has been doing this for so long and is just knows the ins and outs of that character so well. So that's something that I think was more of a concern, is am I going to be as prepared as, of course, he is, having spent so many years there. But over the years, I've recognized that I really thrive off of that type of pressure. And if there's any concern over what I'm going to do, there's a part of me that wants to live up to anyone's doubts, my own doubts, I guess, not live up to them, but supersede them in a way. And like I said, I look at those situations and I appreciate the challenge. They fuel me. I get really excited by them.
The only, sadly, the only equivalent I can give you for myself is, I guess when I used to play tennis as a kid, I always used to play better against someone that was obviously better than I was. So in a sense, it's that same thing of you level up to try and match those heavyweights that you're up against in a way. And I guess, and I've spoken to a few actors about this, that idea of, it's not, is it competitive on set in that way, with those, when you're paired with someone as accomplished as you and know that can deliver? Does it make you raise your game, I guess?
I heard Tom Hanks say this once. I think he said it to me. He said, one tool sharpens another. And I think when you find, or working with great actors, the common response is that they all generally want to be surrounded with the best. We're all enhancing one another. And if you bring in someone who is perhaps not at the same level, to go back, I just think we always thrive off of the challenge, and our work is just it's enhanced and flourishes when we are challenged by the best of the best.
Absolutely, yeah. So there's a quote, actors hate this when they have their quotes delivered back to them, but you said about Safin, your character, what I really wanted to do with Safin is make him unsettling. I like that word anyway because that word is unsettling in of itself. But how, I guess, do you go about achieving something like that?
It definitely exists in the detail of the makeup, of the wardrobe, but ultimately most of it is in the creation of that character. And when I think about Safin, I think about someone who is meticulous but measured. And there's something about that that's really unnerving and unsettling. He's someone that at times I feel gives you this sensation that you're being watched. And that again is quite unsettling. He asks you to question what you think is right, what you think is wrong, and is your interpretation of those two things as accurate as it seems to be. And once you start questioning your philosophy that you've lived by for so long, I think that can be quite unsettling as well.
Yeah. Okay. That's great. We've seen a couple of trailers now. As you said, the costume, the hair, it's all such a big part of building a character visually. Could you talk us about a couple of those influences? They've got the Japanese Noah mask, I know. You've got burns to his face or scarring to his face. The origins of those, I don't know if you can divulge, but I guess a bit more on your work getting there.
Yeah, let's start with the scarring of the face. I worked with these incredible prosthetic artists, Barry and Patrick. I'll give you a shout out. These guys have been doing Game of Thrones for so many years, so they've essentially been booked. And this was one of the first jobs they could get out and put their talents towards something of such a similar scale. And to work with them, it was pretty special because we really got to develop that look. We tried a few things and it evolved. And to a point, I think I met Daniel for the first time with that makeup on, and he took a step back from me. So that was already a good sign.
Right.
And then you have aspects of Suturat's costume. It's not the typical type of Savile Row Bond villain look that we are so used to, but there's something very meticulous in the influence of it, the precision of it. And it may at times, look like it's casual, but there's something quite dignified in it. And all of that is a collective tethering of who this character is. Someone who is, I won't say compensating, but creating a look that allows himself to feel as confident and dignified as possible. And some of those Eastern influences come from our director, Cary Fukunaga. And you'll see how that really is intertwined into the film when you watch it. I can't give much away there, but they are rooted in the story.
I thought I saw, forgive me if I'm wrong, I thought I saw some sort of Zen garden going on in the lair there in one of those trailers.
That garden is quite remarkable. That was Mark's work, our production designer, and when I looked at that set, I was immediately taken back to the Ken Adams sets, and I thought, okay, this is just something you've dreamt of as a kid for so long, and now you get to be here. I remember actually taking a break and being like, let's not roll just yet. I need to soak this in. The first time you're seeing it is essentially day one of shooting.
Wow.
It's remarkable. It's every kid's dream.
Yeah.
We actually had a photo shoot later on, and they had a space for us to do it behind like a one sheet, so essentially like a gray or black background. And I remember taking the photographer on a couple of the golf carts, and I said, let me go show you what has been created here before it all gets taken down, because it had just blown my mind.
Amazing. That idea of building your character mentally, I guess, at first with your preparation? I know you're meticulous at your preparation. You know, the makeup, the costume, and then you sort of, you know, becoming, I guess, evil, for want of a better word. What does that do inside your mind, Rami, if you can explain it?
You know, I think you start asking questions about what evil is. And with this character especially, I find him fascinating because he can detach from empathy in order to meticulously carry out his will. And I start to just wrap myself up in who that person is psychologically. You know, he's ruthless, and that might be. I'm in danger of giving too much away.
You can
here.
keep talking. It's
But that
fine.
might be that might be a result of something that's happened to him. But even acknowledging that taps into this analytical side of him as well. And I think the fact that he can still find a way to appreciate his own evil is something that is quite petrifying. And psychologically, not something that was easy for me to tap into.
Right. I mean, we've just met today, but I can imagine you're not ruthless or evil or reckless or, you know. So that leap to become that character, I guess, is presumably a big one.
Maybe you need to spend some more time with me, Jonathan. It is a leap, but you know, I enjoy the process of transforming into a character more than anything. I mean, that's constantly what I'm searching for in scripts. If it is going to really take me on a journey outside of my comfort zone, then I know it's good. You hear a lot of actors saying, if it scares me, it's the right thing to do, and I think that speaks to me as well.
You have gone, I guess, I've read a bit about how, because you didn't actually have that much time to prepare for this role. You went straight from the Mr. Robot set, right, to pretty much to the Bond set, overnight, on an overnight flight, pretty much, right?
Yeah, I'm getting quite used to this. I was prepping for Bohemian Rhapsody, playing Freddie Mercury while I was doing a previous season of Mr. Robot. And I remember using those weekends and anytime I had a week off to fly back and forth to London. So I've become quite good, though I don't enjoy it as much, at working on two things at the same time. I'd rather be focused on just one project. But a few years back, Carrie approached me about possibly playing this character before I think Bohemian Rhapsody had even been released. So it was just exciting to have my name being considered for such an iconic role. And what was very helpful about that is whether or not if we could pull off the dates, Carrie and I had begun talking about the character. And this was while he was still working on his script and his story. So there were moments where we could really develop this character together, and I don't think it was so much of a deficit having to concentrate on Mr. Robot, because at the same time I could have these great long conversations about what he and I wanted this character to be and essentially develop it with him. Whereas usually you get something that's already written and you don't have a say in. So this was quite a unique, special experience, and that, you know, the relationship with Carrie had been able to forge a certain dialogue that we could have that was, you know, pretty succinct every day on set.
Were there are there any kind of creative avenues that you could divulge that you went down with Carrie before landing where you've landed? because you've in the past, I know you've with your roles, you kind of, especially actually with some of the audition processes you've been through in the past, you kind of you kind of use that to experiment a bit and to suggest traits in characters and so on and so forth. Was anything that, I guess, so you can say now something your character isn't rather than it is?
I mean, you've tapped into something here. I did send him a few videos, and I would run accents by him as well. So he would watch things, and we'd have a dialogue that way. And it was very useful. It was interesting to hear, no, that's not working, and then it was really nice when we would hone in on something.
I don't know if you can talk a little bit about Phoebe Waller-Bridge's influence, I guess, on the script especially. Much loved, certainly in this country, I know in the States as well now. What was it like working with her? And I know you had particular writing sessions with Daniel, yourself, Carrie, and then Phoebe as well. And if you can give us a little teaser about what that was like working with her.
Yeah, I was so excited when I heard that Phoebe was going to be a part of this film. As you said, I mean, she's a sensation in the UK, but all over the world now, and definitely in America as well. So that was, I think, a huge win for all of us. I think, you know, everyone across the world got excited when they knew she was attached to this. And knowing that we had her at our disposal, there was a scene that, for myself and when I brought it to Daniel's attention, I think wasn't quite working for both of us. It was a pivotal scene, and we addressed it at the end of work one day, and what happened was of course, you're in the hands of such great collaborative creators in Barbara and Carrie and Michael again, that when we had brought our concerns to their attention, we ended up taking maybe the whole day or the second half of production day off in order to work on this scene. And we started working on the actual set, but realized quickly that there was something that needed to be built nearby, and the construction team was going to use their time wisely as well. So I think we made it into Carrie's office, sat down, and we began to talk about what the scene really needed to be for Daniel's character and for Safin, for Bond and Safin at that point. And I remember us articulating that we were hoping we could have almost like a dinner conversation about, you know, certain philosophy that two people would have over a glass of wine and dinner and properly communicate, rather than, you know, a kind of a petulant aggression between two people. And it was just so great being in that room, batting out ideas between, you know, Barbara, Carrie, Daniel, myself, and again, an extraordinary experience you can't believe you're having. And by the end of it, we had cracked the scene, and I remember, you know, Daniel giving me a hug at that point, because we were just elated. I mean, that's something I think we really thrive off of, is being able to lift something. And when you have people who are not too, I think, sensitive about their positions, that are allowing us to have that experience, it just benefits the entire film eventually. So yeah, I think that night I was able to speak with Phoebe for the first time, and she wanted a bit more context as to what we were talking about that day. And it was a pretty special experience to go from that conversation to, you know, Phoebe that night. I was on top of the world, man.
Yeah, that's great. So great. Was that the night? Did you go out for Negronis with Daniel after that session, or was that another session?
I think Daniel has we did have some Negronis. I think he had some. He whipped some out at the end. I think it was time to kind of cheers, you know, cracking a really special, pivotal moment in the film. And so, yeah, we did have some Negronis that night. He can mix a great cocktail, Mr. Craig can.
To go quickly, I know we're running out of time, but you spent a lot of time in London during the pandemic. A lot of time here. You're in LA now. What do you remember of that time of upheaval and chaos and I mean anxiety for a lot of people? How did you go through it personally, Rami?
It was a difficult experience for all of us, but I think one that quite honestly galvanized so many people. I remember, getting outside of my window and smashing a pot and pan together with a metal spoon, and just weekly that would be something that I think lifted so many spirits. It was really sweet to be able to appreciate the NHS and recognize that, in my country here in the US, we really could learn from how something such as a backbone that is the NHS delivers so much for a country. It was really brilliant to see the influence and how that organization could just lift so much morale on its own. So it was definitely a dire time for all of us, but there were moments where I found really gratifying and just, quite frankly, sweet.
Yeah. Did you? I hear you used to go for kind of long bike rides in the either very early morning or late at night when the streets were basically totally, entirely empty, and you kind of found your path through the city.
Yeah, I mean, I've really fallen in love with London, and I thought immediately. And I will say it was a smart move on my part to buy a bike ahead of everyone else scrambling to find them. But I picked it up, and I know the city fairly well, so it was really nice to go out maybe late at night, or as you said, very early in the morning when it was quite desolate, and just myself and some double-decker buses rolling around the city, and get to really take in some of the most astonishing, astounding, historic architecture the world has to offer. It is such a gorgeous place, and even in a post-apocalyptic setting at times, it still was a very magical place to really soak in, especially in that way.
I guess now you have been at such a high level performance-wise. Now you're really at a high level in terms of your profile as well. How has that changed? Has that changed your life considerably? How do you get it? I guess let it not affect you. For even simple things, I guess, like going for bike rides around London.
Well, yeah, it definitely has affected me. I'm still getting used to it. If I'm being extremely frank, it's that loss of anonymity is difficult to deal with, and I think I learn something more about myself every day, but it is not the greatest challenge in the world, and I won't begin to say that it is. It's just something that I have to deal with. I know you hear a lot of people say, well, you put yourself in that position, and I'll take that one. I will say the mask now helps quite a bit.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So I know there are people that are opposed to wearing masks, but I find it quite freeing.
Absolutely. I can't let you go without asking you about your Oscar win. What an achievement and what a performance, what a role for Bohemian Rhapsody. When they read your name out, can you give us a glimmer of what happens inside, what the sort of fusion that happens inside your body and brain when suddenly your name is read out and you're suddenly on stage and it's the win?
Yeah, man, I still am struggling to understand what that moment actually felt like. It is a kaleidoscopic combustion of a multitude of emotions and feelings that I really still have a challenging time really deciphering at the moment. It's so magical that I don't know that I'll be able to ever quite put it down into words. But yeah, it was like a kind of relentlessly beautiful assault of feelings happening all at once.
Where do you keep...
It's been a great few years, and been just so fortunate to go from that to now playing a villain in a Bond movie. It's yeah, it's something I appreciate every day of my life, Jonathan.
Where do you keep your Oscar, Rami? I need to ask you. Please say it's as a sort of a doorstop in the downstairs bathroom or something.
You've been to my house then? I keep it as any villain would, hidden.
I don't know if Safin's a drinker, but what would a supervillain like him mix at home for a cocktail?
Good question. Safin would have something crisp, cold, and precisely measured.
Deadly. Very good. We're out of time, but Rami Malek, it's an absolute treat to speak to you. We are all still very excited about Bond, as I'm sure you can't wait to get it out there. Thank you for your time, and thank you for being part of GQ Heroes.
Oh, it is terrific that you guys asked me to be a part of it, and I'm so appreciative. And I know we're all waiting for Bond. I am too, but I assure you it will be well worth it. No Time to Die is a very special film. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you to everyone at GQ. Much appreciated.
Thanks so much. Take care, Rami.